Warning, major spoilers ahead. Well, guys, we just witnessed the pros and cons of a show being released in 3 episodes at a time. Andor Season 2 is flying, and while just a couple weeks ago we were praising Dedril, the perfect Imperial match, now I'm afraid that this is the last video I plan to make on the pair. That is, of course, because of a number of things that happened in last night's episode. Who are you? Where we see the true Ghorman massacre and the atrocities that follow. Rip Dedril. In the previous episode, episode 7, we learned that Gore is building continuous tensions with the Empire, with bombings and other rebellious activities. Dedra Miro is seen on edge, clearly frustrated with the situation, but a stickler for following Imperial orders. Following the bombing incidents, Syril sees Imperial reporters reporting on the scene, and he begins to question what's actually going on since he doesn't know the truth of it, and he goes to seek Dedra and questions her what's going on and what his purpose is here. Since he doesn't feel in the loop, Syril shows concern and Dedra plays it off, and eventually we get a vigorous kiss between the two. I think this is kind of Dedra just trying to calm down Syril in this moment. But yeah, it was very spicy. Spicy, brief moment that we got between the two in episode 7. Dedra assures Syril that everything's going to be okay, but tells him he needs to head back home and to start packing, and soon everything's gonna be alright. They'll be back in Coruscant together. Totally. Nothing bad could happen, right? We also know that Syril has essentially blown his cover with the rebels on Gore, or had a falling out of sorts with an interaction where he gets slapped by one of the Ghorman ladies. Their conversation was somewhat suspicious too, as if he may have been cheating with Dedra. I'm not saying that, but I could see that. But anyhow, what's a bit more toxicity in an already toxic cesspool? The Empire's seen amassing forces on Gore, but Dedra is not impressed with the quality of these troops, as they're a bunch of green boys. Meanwhile, Andor goes with Will, who has learned that Dedra Miro, the one who destroyed their home on Ferrix, is on Gore, ripe for the opportunity of assassination and revenge. I'm sure you saw where this was going. We can see Andor with his same tech-savvy blaster from Rogue One, setting up and preparing for the assassination, and that's where episode 7 fades out. And now, let's talk about why you're really here. The meat of episode 8. Who are you? Dedra is seen talking to Partagez, even more concerned than ever. With the prospect of mining equipment being sent out now to Gore, Dedra is informed that the Empire does not care how it's done anymore, and that all they need is the Gores to put up any fight at all where the Empire will spin the narrative that the Gores are evil. Syril's mom, these past 2 episodes, has gotten some more scenes where she's watching the Imperial news about Ghorman, clearly concerned about the well-being of her son Syril, which she should be. The Imperials begin landing the mining equipment and setting up a barrier in the main plaza. This sparks the Ghormans to start forming a riot to protest, where they chant, "We are the Gore! The galaxy is watching!" The crowd grows, tensions are rising. Syril runs into the old Ghorman, who clearly hates him now, and Syril explains how he had no idea of what was going on here and meant him no harm. After this interaction, Syril's honor is hurt and he's questioning himself. He has no choice now but to go to his girlfriend, Dedra, and figure out the bottom of this situation. From Syril's perspective, he thought he was doing a good thing here. After navigating through the crowd, Syril finds his way to the Imperial building, but has a pit stop with some K-Series enforcer droids. Finally, Syril finds Dedra at the top of the building and immediately asks, "What have you done?" in a concerned manner. This is where things get real tense for the Imperial duo. Syril is asking what they are doing here, and Dedra tries to say that they are just following orders, and this is where Syril snaps and shouts at her, asking how long she has been hiding the true intentions of this mission. And we talked about this in our last Dedril episode about how withholding this information would play in hurting their relationship. Well, it did exactly that. Syril is at his breaking point, and he aggressively grabs Dedra, which even she says she's being hurt by his grab. And Dedra looks scared here, but still tries to deny the mining equipment and play off Syril's questioning. Dedra tries to play it off, and this is where Syril goes full dark side, choking Dedra on screen. I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen relationship in Star Wars where there's choking involved, but man, this was uncomfortable to watch. And Syril threatens to throw her out of the window if she doesn't tell him the truth of what is going on here. Finally, Dedra explains that the Empire needs the stone, the precious material here on Ghor, they need for energy, and this is an order from the Emperor himself. Syril finally releases her, but now asks sadly how long she has known about this. Dedra, who has just been released from being nearly choked to death, is back to loving Syril, which makes sense for how toxic this relationship is, and she is trying to persuade Syril that they will be known as heroes and greatly rewarded, and would be able to go home to live on Coruscant together after this. She tries to justify that the Empire was going to do this regardless, and tells Syril he didn't seem to mind the promotions he got, and this is what they needed to do to be together. Still, she withheld key information, so it makes sense that Syril walks away after learning the truth, with his final words to her being, "Good luck, Dedra." And this is the last time the pair speak. As Syril walks away, we can clearly see a heartbroken Dedra, and here lie Dedra. Now she doesn't even have purpose in herself or what she's doing here. Syril leaves for headspace and goes right into the crowd of protesting Ghormans. Meanwhile, the protesters' crowd has amassed and tensions are rising. The fighting starts when the Imperials shoot one of their own to stage it to look like the Ghormans shot first, which of course they didn't. All-out chaos breaks loose. Syril is still out in this mess, and a major fight breaks out on all fronts with the Ghorman civilians and rebels versus the Empire. It is a truly brutal sequence to watch with many Ghorman casualties. It keeps going and going. We follow Andor, who is here as well through this, who is trying to get a kill shot on Dedra. Syril has scenes of him just watching the Empire kill the Ghormans, not knowing who he is anymore and what his life purpose was. Key title drop. He finally learns the horrible truth of the Empire, and there's much confliction in him. Dedra learns that Syril was not detained in the building and is in fact outside in the crowd that is being massacred on her orders, essentially. Dedra's heart sinks and she goes out on the balcony to look for her love. This gives Cassian Andor a momentary opportunity amidst the chaos to line up the shot. Just as he is about to shoot, Syril notices Andor and what he is trying to do, and bravely, for the second time now, saves Dedra Meero's life by running into Andor, messing up his shot. Now, this was the best part of the entire episode for me, because it shows Syril's confliction with himself, with the Empire, with Dedra, and he doesn't know what to do just standing in the open plaza waiting to get shot. That is until he sees someone who, from his perspective, Andor is evil. Someone he spent so much time trying to find this murderer, and to add onto the fact that he sees what he's about to do with Andor trying to shoot Dedra, we get to see that Syril still obviously cares for Dedra enough, but not necessarily the Empire. But he can justify going after someone that's not a Ghorman nor an Imperial, but Andor. All his emotions now are being translated onto Andor, and what ensues is one of the most brutal hand-to-hand combat sequences I've seen. I mean, definitely in Star Wars, but just in TV in general, between Syril and Andor. I mean, it is painful to watch, and I gotta give credit to Syril. I didn't know he had it in him. He really was putting Cassian Andor on the ropes. It was a very intense scene, and if this wasn't a prequel to Rogue One, I really wouldn't have known the outcome, and all bets were off. And Syril actually ends up in the upper hand of the fight. After a grenade goes off, he gets a hold of Andor's blaster and is pointing it at him with Andor at his mercy. Then, with the internal confliction seeming to weigh on him, he points the blaster down, choosing not to kill Andor. Well, the old man of the Ghor has no problem killing and shoots Syril with a blaster bolt in the head, killing him instantly. And man, that sucked to see Syril die. Truly one of the most captivating characters in Andor for me. Really gave depth to what life was like as an Imperial and a complicated character. In his mind, he really was trying to do the right thing for all this time, and to see him learn the truth about the Empire, the truth that Dedra, his lover, was hiding from him for years now, was just so much for him to bear. But man, it stinks he was killed. It makes sense. We predicted this as an outcome. He really did die to save Dedra, but man, this would make a good what if. What if Syril wasn't killed? He was clearly not going to shoot Andor at this point, and Andor was shaken to see him killed as he realized that Syril wasn't going to kill him anymore. Would Syril have joined up with Andor in the rebellion? We'll never know now. Rip Dedril, now dubbed Dead Rip. And this is what I was talking about in the beginning of the episode, though. The pros and cons of releasing a bunch of episodes at once. The obvious con here being that Dedril's relationship, to me at least, feels so short. Since just 2 weeks ago we saw it blossom, and now it's ending since we got 9 episodes in this span of 2 weeks. With episode by episode release, it would have felt much longer, with months of on-air time of them being together. Still, I think the pros outweigh the cons, as some Andor episodes are way too boring on their own, so it's necessary to release 3 at once to complete each arc. The episode ends with sad music, cutting to Dedra, who clearly has learned of Syril's demise, and she is seen weeping and crying, struggling to breathe. It's truly a sad scene, and you can't help but feel bad for her. As toxic as the relationship was, these two didn't know any better. The final scene is of Syril's mom, Edie, watching the news, crying, inferring that she has learned of her son's fate. A truly heartbreaking scene for a heartbreaking episode. Rip Dedril. I feel bad for Dedra, and I'm really curious if that's the end of her arc or what happens with her in the final 3 episodes. Will she look for revenge for Syril's death, or is she done with the Empire, who costed her her love? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more videos. Peace out. Rip Dedril.